There's something unsettling about abandoned places, silent, forgotten, yet filled with echoes of the past. They hold stories no one dares to tell, and secrets best left undisturbed. For Liam and his friends, an abandoned amusement park was nothing more than a thrilling adventure, a chance to prove they weren't afraid. But fear has a way of creeping in when the past refuses to stay buried. The Moonlight Amusement Park had been closed for over 2 decades. Once a place of laughter and joy, it now stood in eerie silence, swallowed by nature. Rusted rides, broken ticket booths, and the faded faces of cartoon mascots painted on cracked walls made it feel like a graveyard of childhood memories. Liam, Jake, Sarah, and Emily sneaked in one night, flashlights in hand. They had heard the rumors, stories of children who had gone missing before the park was shut down. Some believed the spirits of those lost kids still roamed the park waiting for company. Just old myths, Liam scoffed, stepping onto the creaking wooden floor of the merry-go-round. It was covered in vines, its horses frozen in a state of decay. The air smelled of rust and damp wood. Emily shivered. "I don't like this place." "Then why did you come?" Jake teased, nudging her shoulder. "Because you all would have called me a coward," she muttered. They wandered deeper into the park, reaching the Ferris wheel. It stood tall against the moonlit sky, unmoving yet somehow ominous. Suddenly, a soft giggle echoed through the air. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered. Liam waved it off. "It's just the wind." But then, the carousel started spinning. The old ride groaned as if coming to life, the wooden horses moving up and down slowly. There was no wind, no power source, yet it moved. Emily grabbed Liam's arm. "Let's go." Jake, always the daredevil, stepped forward. "It's just a trick. Probably some old wiring." Then they heard it. Laughter, faint, childlike, and coming from the ride itself, a shadowy figure appeared, sitting atop one of the horses. A small girl in a tattered dress, her face pale, her eyes dark hollows. She turned toward them, and suddenly, the laughter stopped. The silence was suffocating. Then, in a whispering voice, she spoke, "Stay with us, forever." The silence was suffocating. Then, in a whispering voice, she spoke, "Stay with us, forever." The ride jerked violently, the horses twisting unnaturally, their heads turning toward the group. The air turned ice cold. Panic took over. The 4 friends ran, stumbling over broken pavement and rusted rails. They didn't stop until they reached the entrance, but the gate they had climbed over was gone. In its place stood a tall, rusted fence, as if it had always been there. Liam turned around, his breath heavy. The girl stood in the distance, her dark eyes watching. Then, as if the park itself was breathing, the lights flickered on, one by one. The Ferris wheel creaked, the ticket booth's bell chimed, and laughter filled the air. 100 voices laughing in unison. The park had awakened. Liam and his friends were never seen again. People who passed by the abandoned park swore they could hear whispers, see shadowy figures moving between the rides, and on quiet nights, the carousel still spins, playing a haunting tune, waiting for its next visitors. Would you dare to enter? Some places are abandoned for a reason, not because of money, not because of time, but because something inside refuses to leave. When Ethan and his friends decided to explore the old Riverside amusement park, they thought it would be nothing more than a fun night out. But some rides never stop running, even when no one is around. The Riverside amusement park had been shut down for years. Rumors spread about why. Some said a ride had malfunctioned, leading to a tragic accident. Others believed something far worse haunted the place. Ethan, Mia, Chris, and Olivia had heard the stories, but that didn't stop them from sneaking in one foggy night. Armed with flashlights and a camera, they wanted proof that ghosts weren't real. The park was a graveyard of rusted rides and broken attractions. The Ferris wheel stood motionless, its cabin swaying slightly in the wind. The roller coaster tracks were covered in vines, and the food stalls still held rotting remnants of what was once served. Then they found it. The Whirlwind, an old spinning ride shaped like a giant wheel. It was once the park's main attraction, but according to legend, it never stopped spinning the night a boy disappeared on it. The staff had searched everywhere, but he was never found. Some believed he was still there, trapped inside the ride forever. "Let's check it out," Ethan said, stepping closer. Olivia hesitated. "I don't think that's a good idea." Chris smirked. "Come on, it's just a broken ride." But as they approached, the Whirlwind suddenly creaked to life. The rusted metal groaned and the ride started spinning slowly. Even though there was no power, the air around them grew heavy, thick with the scent of burning metal. Mia took a step back. "No way. Someone's messing with us." Then a whisper came from the ride. "Help me." The voice was faint, like a child's, carried by the wind. Then, in the center of the spinning ride, they saw him. A small boy in torn clothes, sitting inside one of the seats, staring blankly ahead. His face was pale, his eyes dark and empty. Then, the ride sped up. The rusted seats spun wildly, the metal shaking violently as if something inside wanted out. "Run!" Ethan shouted. They turned and sprinted, their breaths ragged. The sound of the spinning ride roared behind them, louder, faster. The boy's whisper turned into a scream, a sound so chilling that it echoed through the park. Just as they reached the exit, the noise stopped. They turned back. The ride was still again, rusted and broken as if nothing had happened. The boy was gone. The park fell silent. No one knows what really happened that night, but after that, Ethan and his friends never spoke about it again. A week later, Olivia looked up the old news reports. There was no mention of a boy going missing on the whirlwind, but there was something else. The article described a group of 4 teenagers who had gone missing after sneaking into the park years ago. Their names were unreadable, the ink smudged and faded, except for one, Ethan. Some places never let go, some rides never stop, and some ghosts never leave. Grayson Amusement Park had been shut down for 30 years after a terrible accident in its funhouse. A performer, known as Mr. Giggles the Clown, had died there under mysterious circumstances. Some say he tripped and fell into the machinery. Others believe someone or something pushed him. But one thing was certain, his body was never found. Danny, Mark, Lisa, and Chloe wanted to see if the stories were true. They climbed over the rusted fence one foggy night, their flashlights barely cutting through the thick mist. The park was a graveyard of forgotten fun. The Ferris wheel loomed in the distance, its cabins swaying in the cold breeze. The roller coaster tracks were twisted, swallowed by vines, and in the center of it all stood the fun house, its faded red and yellow paint peeling off like rotten skin. A broken sign above the entrance read, "Come laugh forever, let's check it out," Danny said, grinning. Lisa hesitated. "I don't like clowns." "Then you'll love this," Mark teased, nudging her forward. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with the scent of old rubber and decay. The mirrors inside were cracked, reflecting their warped images in twisted, unnatural ways. The deeper they went, the stronger the feeling of being watched grew. Then the laughter started. A slow, wheezing chuckle echoed through the halls. At first, it sounded distant, but then it grew louder, closer. "Who's there?" Chloe whispered. The mirrors around them shimmered. Their reflections changed, themselves but different. Their smiles were too wide, their eyes black and empty. Then from the end of the hallway, a figure stepped out of the darkness. A tall clown in a filthy red and yellow suit. His white face paint was cracked, his lips stretched into an unnatural grin, his eyes pitch black holes. And he was laughing. The lights flickered, the walls shifted, twisting into a maze that had never been there before. "Run!" Danny screamed. They ran through the halls, the clown's laughter chasing them, growing louder with every step. Mirrors cracked as they passed, shadows moving inside them, reaching out. Finally, they found the exit. They burst outside, gasping for air. The funhouse stood behind them, silent once more. But something was wrong. Mark looked around. "Where's Lisa?" They turned. Her reflection was still inside the cracked mirror, pounding against the glass, screaming. But they couldn't hear her. Behind her, the clown loomed, placing a finger to his lips. Then, the mirror shattered and Lisa was gone. The next day, the park remained empty, forgotten. But if you listen closely near the old funhouse, you can still hear faint laughter, and sometimes, when the fog is just right, you can see Lisa's face in the mirror, trapped forever, screaming as the clown laughs. Would you dare to step inside? Willowbrook Park had been closed for years. Some said it was due to safety issues. Others whispered about the disappearance of 3 children decades ago. They were last seen playing on the swings before vanishing without a trace. The only thing left behind was the faint creaking sound of the swings, still moving on their own. Mia, Jake, Laura, and Ben didn't believe the stories. They had explored plenty of abandoned places before, so this was just another night of fun. They climbed over the rusted gate, their flashlights barely cutting through the thick mist. The park was silent except for the occasional whistle of the wind. Then they heard it. Creak, creak. It was slow and steady, the unmistakable sound of a swing moving back and forth. "Did you hear that?" Laura whispered. Jake laughed nervously. "Just the wind." But as they moved deeper into the park, they saw it. At the center of the park stood an old swing set, rusted and broken. 3 swings hung from thick, corroded chains. 2 of them were still motionless, but the third swing was moving, back and forth, back and forth. There was no wind, no reason for it to move. Ben swallowed hard. "That's weird." Mia stepped closer, her flashlight shaking. "Maybe it's just loose?" Then a child's giggle echoed through the air. The 4 friends froze. The sound was soft but unmistakable. Then a whisper, "Come swing with us." The fog thickened. The air grew ice cold. The swing suddenly stopped, and then it jerked backward as if someone invisible had just sat on it. Jake grabbed Mia's hand. "We need to go. Now!" The laughter grew louder. The empty swing pressed down, its chains groaning as if something heavy was sitting there. Then, footsteps. Small wet footprints appeared in the dirt beneath the swings, but there was no one there. The footprints moved toward them. Mia screamed. The four friends ran, their footsteps pounding against the broken pavement. But as they reached the exit, Ben stumbled. "Help me," he cried. Mia turned just in time to see something dragging him backward. Invisible hands pulling him toward the swings. His fingers clawed at the ground, his screams filling the air. Then, as suddenly as it started, silence. Ben was gone. The swing was moving again. The police never found Ben. His friends told the truth, but no one believed them. Weeks later, Mia went back just to see. The swing was still moving, and next to it, a fourth swing had appeared. That's when she heard the whisper again, "Come swing with us. Would you dare to sit down?"